Hello, this is Tracy Blakeney with a report on my retreat at Pendle Hill Retreat Center in Wallingford, Pennsylvania that took place from December 28th to January 1st, 2025. Please bear with me because I have a lot of moving parts to this and I'm going to be moving around a little bit. Pendle Hill is a Quaker center for study. They have an art studio. They have Quaker meeting every day. There are rooms. You can go on a personal retreat, join conferences, all kinds of things. I've been there once before a bunch of years ago for a personal retreat. So this was very different because it was a structured retreat. There were 3 5-day retreats going on at the same time. One was for something called Open Heart, one was for singing, and mine, it was for Transformative Arts. We had over 20 people in our group, which made it a very large group, I thought, because we were going to be sharing a lot. So my teacher was Jessie White, and she's not only an artist, but she is well-versed in leading retreats, shamanism. She's had a lot of different kinds of training that make her able to help people with soul growth work. I also met her back in the day, and I really liked her, and that's one of the reasons why I came back. So let me tell you a little bit about our retreat, and I'm going to do a little bit of showing as well as telling. I hope you can see this. Transformative Arts, a creative and spiritual journey to a new you. That's what we started with. And I thought, it might be relaxing and we would learn some things. But in fact, this retreat was really about personal transformation and not so much about art. They didn't have a lot of supplies, actually. So it's all basically process and what I learned through it. We would typically start out with a go-around, one word to describe how you're feeling, that kind of thing. Opening worship, meaning sitting in silence and looking towards the light of God. We had established guidelines for a safe space and that we all agreed on, and we learned a little bit about the art room. It was not in very good order because there was no person working there full time, so it was a bit of a hodgepodge there. Did not prevent us from learning what we needed to learn, however. So I went there Sunday, and then Monday morning we wake up, we have breakfast, 7:30 to 8:30, 8:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. is meeting. You get a half hour to go to your room, and then you go to your first meeting in your group. And our first day was about severance and letting go of what no longer serves us, emptying our hands of God's no's to make room for God's yeses. Jessie had written a sermon on this, and it was very powerful. And I took notes, and I also have a copy of it. So we did a letting go activity. After that, we had a break, and then we came back and we did sitting with unknowns, body prayer, source painting, journaling, cleanup, and closing. So body prayer was one I knew. Julian of Norwich was one that I talked about. So I was very happy that something was familiar and apropos in this situation. Now, source painting was really interesting, and all of these things are new to me. This is what I made in my source painting. And with source painting, you're basically realizing that you are co-creating with God. And I started out with a very dark black line in the middle. It was more of I can't see how this is supposed to go on here, but more of a squiggle across. Let me see if I can do this backwards. This makes you do it the opposite. Anyway, can you see the dark in the middle? That was my squiggle. Then I did squiggles that followed, and then I kind of got taken over by wanting to use different colors and applying them quickly and just sort of allowing the whole thing to happen. And that was a new experience for me, and it felt really cool, I have to say. I'm wondering if you could even compare it to something like twirling. It just feels good, and it's a movement that you're not in complete control of. Let me see. I think I wrote a reflection about that. She said there was no mistakes and no accidents in the process. Enjoy the journey. And she brought out that healing can occur without us doing anything in particular, and that it can be unconscious. And I thought that was really interesting. So I was moved to add all of those bursts of color to the black wavy line, and then it was chaos, possibility, all is possible, God is in everything. This is what it started to mean to me as I went through the exercise. She had music playing, and then I started kind of painting to the music, and I couldn't stop. And the message for me was, with God, Goddess, the divine, all things are possible. And I know that's a trite phrase, but that's what I felt. Okay, I'm going to move on here. Later that afternoon, we talked about life narratives, the many incarnations of ourselves, and our core beliefs. We did an activity with a worksheet. It was all written. And I've been dealing with this problem of overspending on paparazzi jewelry. But I have this core wound that is because of my abandonments from both of my parents, that I am unlovable. And it's blocked. I think it has been part of what's blocked my ability to create a lasting love relationship, which is about the only thing I haven't been able to manifest in my life. And I don't know how to really do it. But when I talk to others about this core belief, I feel damaged, unlucky, and wrong, unlovable. What I want to believe is I am fully seen for who I am and loved despite my faults. And then she said, rewrite the sentences you chose to make it feel more true for you. And I wrote, you were born into a dysfunctional family with parents who were immature but well-intentioned initially. Then your father was too weak to manage to keep a place in his life for his kids from his first marriage. A betrayal of the first order. Your abandonments by both parents caused you to feel unlovable and feeling damaged and unworthy. Having not learned good boundaries made it feel unsafe to love, even though the pain of unsafe relationships felt familiar. It's time to blow up that belief once and for all. So that was very powerful for me. Then we wrote a letter to our future self, a note to our future self, and I just opened it. It says, I always knew you would persevere in the work of healing. It is only possible because of your willingness to release and rebuild. This card is supposed to represent a pendant like this, if you can see that, like a pendant. But I have reversed it just to show the mountains you have climbed and the rewards you will have gathered with the help of Spirit. Blessed be. And that's how I wrote it, with the mountains. Later that afternoon, we talked about noticing synchronicities and everyday mysticism. We did a meditation called the Hollow Reed, or the Bone meditation from Native American teachings. We did a collage, and then we asked it, what medicine do you have for me? This is my collage. So she gave me this very standout white piece. I don't know if you can see it, but it has 3 roses embossed on it. And those roses are me with my grandkids on either side. The bottom, I used kind of pillars of different papers. I'm sorry, this reversal is really throwing me off, but they're very strong, and then they're reinforced with these triangles of like steel. So it's like there is a very good foundation of love for my family, my grandkids. And that is actually the medicine. That's the positive out of it. The fact that I have 2 beautiful grandchildren that I love and that I can see, and that we have a strong foundation, is my medicine. All right. On Tuesday, we talked about storytelling, transformation stories, and the heroic journey. And we identified where we were on our core concern with this hero's wheel based on Joseph Campbell's teachings. So my core, even though I'm having this issue with overspending, I think that's the secondary issue to feeling unloved and that hole that I have in that regard. And I am, where am I? Over here with that approach to innermost cave and heart of darkness, the ordeal. That's where I am with all of this. After that, you get to epiphany, seizing the reward, the road home, return, final test, incorporation, and renewal. Now, she explained that this hero's wheel is really representing a spiral, and that we go through these constantly, these turns on the wheel based on what's happening with us at any given time. After this, we were supposed to plan a transformation ceremony. And I was really in desolation because I couldn't identify a transformation. I only feel stuck. I only felt stuck. So I didn't do that. That evening, we did an exercise called Painting Ourselves and Others in the Light. And it was I just basically used colored pencils, and I made this for myself. I see you, I love you. That was my message for myself. And the other one I did at that time was for my son. It says, I love you, my beloved. May you be well, happy, and peaceful. Remember, you are my heart. And that was a very happy experience because we spent about 10 times holding the other person or ourselves in the light and created from that space. And it was very, very pleasant. And you could really get in touch with the positive in the person. Next, So the next day we did our transformation ceremonies. Some people did their transformation ceremonies on their own and then told about half the group what they did and got feedback. And then the rest of us stayed and did transformation ceremonies in person. And those transformation ceremonies of those women were so beautiful, so deep, so soulful. My spirit was so touched by the sharing and the love that was given to every woman. And as it was going on, I had an idea of what I actually could do for a transformation ceremony, even though no transformation had occurred. And that was to sing the UU song, "There is More Love Somewhere." And then, as it's a zipper song, we put in, "There is more hope somewhere, there is more joy somewhere." And then, again, "There is more love somewhere." And for the final verse, I told people, I need your help because I really don't believe this, but I'm going to ask your help to help me believe it. So if you believe it's possible, will you please put your hand on me and try to infuse me with that belief, and I'll try to take it in. And they did. And towards the end of it, I could actually feel like energetic movement around my heart. I could feel it. And I just went like this and I tried to press it into my heart. I was really overcome. It was just so nourishing for me to feel that. It was almost like, I took a deep breath, like if you haven't been able to breathe and then you took a deep breath and took it into my heart. That's how I felt it. It was incredible. That was New Year's Day. New Year's Eve day. And that evening, they made us a very nice dinner. There was a candle on the tablecloths, salmon, and this, that, and the other thing to eat. And I had connected with 2 other women who also want a romantic love relationship and haven't been able to manifest it. And they didn't make it their first thing that they wanted to transform, but it felt good that there were other people, and I felt that I had been actually kind of courageous then sharing it because there's shame associated with the fact that you haven't been able to get it. And one of the women and I sat together and we were talking about it, and don't you know, a couple came in and sat with us. They came from the outside. They were from Abington Friends. Nicely dressed couple. They were not in any of these groups that were there. And they asked about our workshop. So I'm pretty open. I was talking about it. And don't you know, they had just met a little over a year before on an computer dating app, and they found each other and they were together. And I'm like to my friend Laura, I think God is talking to us here, and laughing in a way. I was laughing. And they were telling us how they're like, you don't have a lot of time, which I know. You don't have a lot of time, but you don't have to waste your time. And how to handle some of those awkward and disappointing and distressing moments in dating at an older age. And I just feel so grateful that they came and sat with us. And one other thing I want to share. One of the meetings that I went to, I actually stood up and said, I have a problem with overspending, and I'm going to ask for your prayers in the days and weeks and months ahead to help me move closer to God and away from that behavior. And right after, a woman came up to me and she said, "You're going to feel so much better after that you stop." And later she told me she had a problem with alcohol and, she was sober now and all that. And then I went out in the hall and a woman said, "I appreciate what you said, and you don't have to always buy things to get things. Sometimes you can get them in other ways." And she offered to buy me a book in the bookstore, which was open that day, which I thought was absolutely so kind of her. So I ended up buying this Dark Night Journey, Inward Repatterning Toward a Life Centered in God by Sandra Cronk. I don't know if you've ever seen that or read that, but I'm going to check that out. And I have this book, Out of Your Mind and Into Your Heart, Using Love Energy to Heal Your Life by Marie Roberts. This was given to me by a woman who I talked with, and she's also on that journey to trying to find fresh love. She wrote that book, and she wants to get together, possibly, and do some things together. So that was wonderful. And then while we were waiting in line, there was a woman who had a big stack of books, and she said, "Oh, there's a rack over there, $5 for like as many books as you can carry," or something like that. So I was looking at her books, and one of them was poetry by Emily Dickinson. I said, "Oh, Emily Dickinson, I love poetry. I'm sure that'll be a great book to read." She said, "Oh, I love poetry too." So fast forward, the next morning, of course, I was the first one in line for breakfast. But she came in behind me and she said, "You're here." And I'm like, "Yes." And she said, "I was thinking about it, and I really think that book of poetry is meant for you." She said, "I'm going to go right back to my room and get it." And she did, and she brought it back and gifted it to me. So there were all these acts of kindness that happened that I'm not used to, but my heart was open to feeling them and feeling the synchronicities, and I love being in that kind of energy. I want to hold on to that as I move ahead and probably try online dating. Oh my God. I don't know still if I'm ready for that. I went in there saying I wanted to do a vision board. And now that I've done this exercise, doing a vision board is going to be, easier even. So I will do that eventually as well. So I'm heading into 2026 with great energy and power. And I believe that in answer to your questions, how would you know when to invite a seeker to go on retreat? I think if you're stuck with an issue and you find a strong retreat, well-led retreat, it can jumpstart you in a big way for the future. So that could be one way. And then, of course, there's all kinds of retreats. You could have a retreat for relaxation, whatever the person might seem to need. It might be a good way to start something fresh, a new pattern of behavior. Also, what advice would you give the seekers about retreats? They might not be exactly what you expect, but you should be able to take away what you need. How has this experience affected your own spiritual journey and identity? Well, I think probably by sharing everything that I did, you can see that I had an amazing healing while I was there. And I feel that God is acting in my life, and that gives me hope. And I feel like I have new ways to bring out aspects of myself, like the artwork. all of the different ways to do artwork, to bring up some things that may be subconscious or work through some things to get to the bottom of a problem. I also created a moratorium on buying, and especially my paparazzi jewelry, because I need to become addicted to selling it rather than buying it. Once I sell it, we can talk about buying it again. And I'm joining a, boot camp, so that I can actually learn what I need to learn to sell it. And guess what? That was just offered this past week. So it's just what I needed, just in time. So lots of little miracles can happen when you're open to it. And I would really enjoy having a seeker go on a retreat and then, review what's been learned in the very many ways that you can learn afterwards. So I would definitely go back to Pendle Hill for another retreat. But I'll make sure that I know even more about it before I go. So I'm not disappointed in any way, but I do think I got everything I needed and more. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you. Stop this video.